Republican lawmakers in New Jersey are planning to challenge the statehouse's vaccine mandate. Last month, a new rule was instituted requiring all statehouse visitors to show proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test. Joining me now for more is Matt Friedman, a reporter for Politico, New Jersey. Hi, Matt. So give us some background here. How are Republicans planning to mount a challenge to this Democrat-backed statehouse vaccine mandate?
Well, really just about half an hour ago, the two incoming minority leaders in the state Senate and Assembly, both Republicans, filed a lawsuit challenging the mandate, which was made by a statehouse commission, a pretty obscure one. And we'll see where that goes. They're seeking an injunction, and that will have to happen fast because the voting session is tomorrow at 1 p.m. and there's actually a committee meeting 2 hours before that. So we'll see if the judges come in and rule. If they give an injunction that the Republicans want, I doubt it would be the overall say in whether this policy is constitutional. They argue it isn't. But if they don't make an injunction, then we're going to see probably a little bit of drama in the state house. The legislators are not unified in terms of how they're going to approach it. The Republicans aren't. There's going to be probably a little bit of civil disobedience, and so a little bit of drama on the floor of the Assembly probably.
Wow, there could be some action. So are you saying, though, that this looks like the mandate would pass if the Republicans don't get this injunction, or that's still not clear?
Yeah, if they don't get the injunction, then the mandate will be in place. It's not even clear at this point 100% who's going to enforce it, whether it will be the state police who are in charge of state house security, whether they'll block Republicans from entering if they refuse to comply, or whether the speaker will have to call the sergeant at arms and have a member who refuses to comply removed from the floor.
Right.
But if they get that injunction and this is temporarily put on hold, then you won't see this drama. But if they don't, yeah, we'll probably see at least one member, I know for sure, a member out of Morris County named Brian Bergen is not going to comply. He plans to attempt to go into the State House tomorrow, and he's not going to listen. So we'll see what happens to him.
And see who tries to stop him. Okay, well, let's back up for a moment. What are Republicans' arguments against the vaccine mandate?
Well, there is a section of the state constitution that says legislators are free from arrest when going about their duties as lawmakers, when on their way to a voting session or in the voting session. This can be interpreted. I mean, nobody's saying they're going to be arrested, but does being prevented from entering the floor count as an arrest according to the Constitution? That's an argument for the lawyers to make.
Right.
They're also arguing that it goes against some state laws and that this commission that enacted it, which is made up of members of the executive and legislative branch, doesn't have the authority to do this. All of these are potentially valid legal arguments that...
Right. Which you could also jump over by instituting fines, right? Docking lawmakers' pay. You know, that would not be preventing them from entering, but it would certainly be instituting some unpleasant repercussions.
That might be an option, and again, I'm not sure if it would run afoul of any constitutional things, but that would have to be done through the legislature itself, which they haven't done yet. There are other options if this doesn't work out for them, but for now, Democrats who control the legislature are standing pretty firm on this. It's just not clear how they're going to enforce it at this point.
Right. So aside for that sort of, legal issue of not being allowed to prevent or arrest lawmakers on their way to work. Let's talk about the actual policy and what why the Republicans are against it, because it would require proof of vaccination or a negative COVID test, right? There's a lot of places that have that instituted, and providing a negative COVID test is not as restrictive, some might argue, as a full-on vaccine mandate. So why are Republicans opposed to that?
Well, Democrats have even gone further, and they're expected to make rapid tests available for people who don't have a test within the last 72 hours, like at the door. They're opposed in principle because, you've seen it in Republican politics across the country. They're trying to kind of walk a fine line between being against vaccine mandates and being anti-vaccine. There's a lot of overlap with these two positions, and in fact, the initial article about the Republican resistance, which wasn't by me, said that they were talking about inviting this one Democrat who is a very vocal anti-vaccine member, really no debate about that. He's an acolyte of Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who's one of the most prominent anti-vaccine activists out there. So I think they see it. You know, we had a closer than expected election. Democrats lost 7 seats between the state Senate and Assembly last month. And I think they see mandates as part of the reason Democrats didn't do as well as they were expecting to in this election. I think that's what the Republicans see. I don't think Democrats see it.
And within the Republican Party, do they have unanimous dissent on this new rule, or are there some Republicans who are like, whatever, it's a vaccine?
It's pretty close to unanimous, if not unanimous altogether, against the idea of the mandate. What they're not unanimous on is how they want to protest this. I think you'll definitely see some Republican members, most Republican members in the Senate at least, and at least some in the Assembly participating in the voting session, whether remotely or in person, I don't know. And others had wanted to boycott it altogether. So there's no unified strategy for them on how to approach this. I think they tried to come to one and couldn't.
All right, so we'll see what happens tomorrow. Matt Friedman, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Tanya.